Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Christmas Special podcast, which it is. We're building up to Boxing Day. That is St. Stephen's Day for the man in the bottom left of my shot, Donn McClean. And we're also going to look at some of the racing on the 27th because our friends in Ireland do the right thing and they declare their horses for the 27th on the 23rd, which is what you should do. But these Brits, ridiculous. So we're not going to look at the main races from Kempton on the 27th because we don't know what's definitely running. We've thrown in the Welsh National, though, for you at Steve Jones's request because he's got so many good things for that. How are you, Steve Jones?
Yes, very well, thanks. Yeah, I was going to wear my Christmas hat, but I don't know where it is. Probably haven't got one.
I was very disappointed you're not. I was looking for a Christmas jumper. I couldn't find one. And I've also lost my Matchbook gilet in the house move as well. But I'm gonna re-find that. Adele, how are you? Feeling Christmassy? Feeling festive?
Yeah, I'm all right. I actually thought Steve was going to be wearing a Christmas hat, so I actually did have these just in case he was, because I was going to join in with him, but he's not, so I left them off.
Adele, you're gonna have to put them on now. You have to.
In fact, noise, you won't even hear me. They look.
Just give us just for anyone on the podcast, you can't see it. Apologies, okay. But
they're actually scarlet, so
that is fun. Some reindeer antlers. I love it. Beautiful. Don, where's your festive gear?
I have a Christmas jumper, or I had a Christmas jumper, and I lent it to my daughter who needed a Christmas jumper going into school 3 days ago, and I don't know where it is now. I had like Adele, I had a short look for it this morning, couldn't find it. I thought, I'll cross that bridge if I need it.
Sounds a bit like the dog ate my homework kind of excuse, Tom, but we'll let you off.
I don't have it here, I swear.
Right. Racing is what we're all looking forward to. We'll get Christmas Day rubbish out of the way, and then we'll get stuck into the racing on Boxing Day. Before we get stuck into the previews, though, a reminder that all of the bets that go up here on this podcast are going to be available at insights.matchbook.com. So head there for a recap of all the bets and a brief explanation as to why. That is the same for all the sports over the festive period, all the Boxing Day Premier League action, if there is much of it left. That'll be up there as well. And if you're liking our content on YouTube, give this video a like, and you can subscribe for free. Makes it easier to watch each and every podcast. And if you're listening on the podcast, give us a review and a follow as well on your preferred podcast app, please. Thank you very much. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the grade ones at Kempton first of all, and then we'll do Wetherby as well, and then we'll put the Irish at the back end. Just makes it easier, a bit more succinct, I think, particularly if anything were to get called off, but hopefully it's not going to. So at the moment, for the King George, Clandazobo is 4.0. Manila Indo in cheap pieces for the first time is 4.33. Chantry House is 6.5, as is Frodon. Asterion Phalange is 7.5, and I won't run you through those at double figures. We will put them up if we get to them. Right. The one horse I personally didn't want to back was Chantry House, and Don and Steve have gone and put him up. So make that case and tell me why I'm an idiot. Jonesy, first of all.
Well, I think it's almost a process of elimination. Frodon and Clandazobo both obviously won this race before. Paul Nicholls has dominated this race. Frodon last year was a bit of a surprise, but he's always been a good, tough chaser front runner. But everything went his way last year. Got an easy lead and just jumped. And he's always going to be hard to pass. I don't think he's going to get... I'd be surprised if he got such an easy lead. I think he sets the standard, personally. Clandazobo was only third last year, but was poorly placed and seemed to have a revival later in the season in cheap pieces, which is a little bit interesting. But I don't know, something at the back of my mind says this horse has been on the go for a long time, and some of these French breds, they tend to start going downhill when they're approaching 9, and he's approaching 10. So I'm willing to take him on at the prices. And Chantry House is like the improver, the new. He's got to prove he is up to this sort of level for sure, because although he's won 2 grade ones at Cheltenham and Aintree last spring, they were novice chases, but I've been impressed with him. I think stepping up to 3 miles is going to see him really kick on now. I know he stepped up at Aintree and some people might think he was a bit lucky at Aintree because Espoir de Romney fell when still in front, I think 3-8. I thought he was still very much in that race, and I think he would have probably won. He's unexposed. He's had a great prep at Sandown. So at the prices, I'm willing to take the chance that he is up to this top class level against horses that might just be, especially Clans de Obo, might just be not capable of performing at their very best.
Okay, so Chantry House at 6.5 against obviously proven Grade 1 performers, older horses. Dom, would he definitely have won, do you think, at Aintree if a Espoir de Rome would have stood up? Because I'm not certain.
Yeah, I think he would, Tom. Look, we don't know, but I do think he would. I thought, I know Espoir de Rome hadn't gone for everything, but he was just making his ground, and he's a stayer. And I thought when in the Meyrick Chase at Cheltenham early on, he's just kind of struggling for a wee bit of pace. But then when Shan Bleu went and stretched him out down the back straight, I thought that played right to his strengths, and he stayed on really well. Asterion Forlange was back in third place that day, so he has that over Asterion Forlange. When I heard Asterion Forlange was going for this race, I wanted to back him, and I just think Chantry House yesterday or the day before was a similar price to Asterion Forlange. He's a wee bit shorter now, but at a similar price to Asterion Forlange, I just think he's more solid. Like you could see Asterion Forlange winning it. He goes right. He has to go right-handed. He's so good at punches down. I think, again, another imponderable. We don't know how he would have fared in the John Durkin Chase last time if he hadn't fallen or unseated at the third last fence. But he was traveling like the most likely winner at the time. So, I think he would have at least gone close to winning that. And it's a good race for him. But he still has to prove his stamina. He has to prove that he can operate at Kempton. And he's always liable to do that. He still hasn't ironed that out of his system. He's a very talented horse, but he's always liable to do something like he did the last day.
While you're talking about Asterion Forlange, just because it was something I wanted to flag up, but you've talked about him now. I was keen on him last time, and yes, he probably would have won. But he didn't find a huge amount at Cheltenham when he travelled really well. And did they not? They missed out a few fences in the John Durkin, did they not? And do you think that probably helped him because of his jumping frailties?
Yeah, well, it probably did. But he does jump well. When I know he's got a lot of letters after his name. So, but when he's jumping, he does jump well. And I thought in the Meyrick Chase actually he did okay. I thought he found enough over 2.5 miles, but he didn't. I agree with you, Tom. He didn't smack it. That run didn't smack of a horse who wanted to go up to 3 miles. Now, look, he's by coastal path, and Willie Mullins doesn't seem to think that he'll have any issue staying the trip. But we know with the King George, and I often get sucked into the kind of improving horses like Chantry House, and it's happened again this year. But it is a race that does foster repeat winners. Like in the last 50 years, there have been 3 repeat winners of the Cheltenham Gold Cup. In the same time, there have been 13 repeat winners of the King George, which is massive. And Clan des Obo therefore sets the standard. And it hasn't had a run this year. I think that's probably because he had such a hard race in the Betfair Chase last year, and that maybe had an impact on his performance in the King George. And Paul Nicholls has decided to go straight there. So he's interesting as a dual King George winner. And Frodon, he won it last year. I agree with Steve on Frodon. I just thought he was a 20-1 shot last year. I think they left him a little bit alone as they all watched each other, and I don't think he'll get it as easy a time of it on the front end as he did last year. And then Manila Indo, like cheek pieces for the first time, that's not a surprise. Like I just think he has to prove that he can operate at Kempton as well. Look, he's top class. I think he should be probably joint favourite with Aplutard for the King or for the Gold Cup because he's so good at Cheltenham. But if he can be as good at Kempton as he is at Cheltenham, he's a hell of a horse. Like he's a Gold Cup winner. He's a brilliant horse anyway. But I just think that the pace, the flat track, the way the fences come at you quickly, and it's not that he can't do it, and it's right-handed as well. It's not that he can't do it. It's just that he's not proven at the discipline at the track. If this race is at Cheltenham, I'd back Manila Indo, but I just think he's a similar price to Clan des Obo. He's a much shorter price than Chantry House, and like Steve, I think Chantry House is the value.
Right, Adele, last year's winner, take it away.
Gosh, right, I don't know. Should I change my mind after hearing Don and Steve? I'm sticking with Frodon. He's a fantastic horse. He is surprise winners. I don't know. We just it's like we never really give him much credit before his races, and then he wins them, and they were like, oh, like, what were we thinking, really? And yeah, she does. They do always seem to get an easy lead out in front, but she doesn't have to ride him like that. I've spoke to Bryony quite a bit about Froden whenever I see her up north, and it's just the way it always pans out for her. She kind of sets off to make the running. If someone does take her on, then she'll happily take a lead, but they never seem to do. I don't know why. The lads, you know, even in Ireland, I thought surely the one way to get him beat is to take him on, but they never seem to do anyway. This horse loves Kempton. She's just, you know, they seem to be able to save valuable ground, you know, nicking around the corners. Even when he jumps, he kind of can be a little bit messy at times, but he only kind of just brushes through the top of them and doesn't really get that high, so he saves time that wise as well. And you know, he's run at Kempton I think he's won all but one starts at Kempton. He loves it round there. She knows him so well. He's got experience in abundance. You know, he's won 18 races. He's been running at the top level for however long. I think he's always overpriced for me, Froden. So I'm going to stick with him. Maybe my heart's ruling me a little bit here, but given the fact that he goes so well around Kempton, and if she does get an easy lead, I think it'll be hard to pass. Not quite sure whether she will or not, though.
I'm going to go. I think Frodon's fascinating and will definitely add to the pace setup here. I'm chickening out at the top of the market, although if I had to decide one, it'd be Manila Indo and first time cheap pieces against the leading British horses. But I've come down on Tornado Flyer, who I think is worth a bet, win and place. It'd be 75% in the place market, 25% in the win market. He's 26.0 Tornado Flyer. He's had one go over 3 miles. Now, that was really disappointing. He was beaten nearly 40 lengths in the Savills Chase. And I suppose I half thought he didn't stay, but he was just never really in it. He was ridden out the back and the race really developed in front of him. But if you go back to other bits of form, you know, look at Cheltenham. He only finished half a length by subsequent Grade 1 winner Fakir Dudery and staying on. I know he was well beaten by Allaho, but again, he was out of his ground there. Last time, I thought he ran a good race, keeping on in the John Durkan as he'd done the previous year, although we didn't see any of the race that year. So I think he's definitely worth another go over 3 miles. I like the way he smuggles into a race that I think he can definitely nick a place because they're going to go hard here. It's really hard to see him winning it. It's a price selection because I couldn't really make my mind up at the top of the market, but he's unexposed at the trip and I definitely think he's worth another go at it. So Tornado Flyer 26.0, mainly in the place market for me. Ladies and gentlemen, anything to add about the King George? Good, we move on, or we move back, but we move on. So we go from the King George and go to the next of the Grade 1s, which is the Christmas Hurdle. This comes up at 2:30, and good old Epatante is back, and she heads the betting currently at 1.91. 4.5 is Not So Sleepy. Tritonic is 7.5. 8.0 for Soaring Glory, and Glory and Fortune is a whopping 41.0. Right, there's some differences of opinions here. Adele, I'm going to come back to you first of all.
I was at Newcastle for the Fighting Fifth, and I have to say, Epatante and Not So Sleepy were the picks of the paddock that day. I thought she looked really well. I did think she looked like she would come on for the run, though. I actually seen her out on the track in the morning. She went and had a little trot round. It was so windy. I can't tell you how bad the weather was up there that day. She looked great. She looked really well. She was moving well. I thought Aidan made a little bit of a weird manoeuvre in the race when he kind of switched. Was it 2 out? And I thought, because the year before he kind of went to last and second last and kind of just let her go forward, but for some reason this year he didn't seem to want to hit the front too soon, so he looked like he was kind of holding on to her a little bit, well, a bit too long for my liking, and then she kind of looked like she hit a bit of a flat spot and it was like, oh dear, and then she ran on and obviously they're dead heated, but I think she'll come on for the run for that day. I think everyone's kind of saying she didn't maybe look to her best at the finish, but I think she looked like she probably will have just needed it. Not So Sleepy, I know Jonathan's put a load of work into him and he was pleased to see him win, but I think looking at her that day, I thought she was the one that would come on for it. I spoke to Aidan, he thought she was pretty much back to her best and he said she felt great. She jumped.
Epatante will come on quite a lot for Newcastle, but she's just a bit too short for me, given that they did dead heat last time, and I don't think she's quite as good as she was when she won the champion hurdle. Maybe that might be a bit harsh, but it's not a race that I was particularly keen to have a bet in.
I'm singing from a similar hymn sheet. As tempted as I was by Tritonic, I think he wants a pace of a handicap. Don, you're with Not So Sleepy.
Yeah, I just think at the prices, Tom, that's what Adele said about the last day and the fighting fifth. He dead heated with her, and for all that, he went into the race with race fitness on his side, and she didn't. I think, she's been very good in the fighting fifth before. Like, she won the fighting fifth last year and then got beaten by Silver Streak in the Christmas hurdle. Yeah, I agree with Steve. She's not as good as she was. She was rated in the 160s. Now she's back to a mark of 153, which I think that's fair enough. And actually, Not So Sleepy's got a mark of 160. So with the £7 concession, there should be nothing in it between them on official ratings, as was the case at Newcastle. And Not So Sleepy, he made a really bad mistake at the second last and then wasn't great at the last either. I thought he did really well. He went back to third as Sorrel went up on the inside, and he did well to battle back as well as he did. I think, look, he's 9 years old now, but I think he's an improved horse. He's in the form of his life. He's settling a lot better. They don't have to make all the running with him anymore. And I just think he's the wrong price. You can see Tritonic, look, he's a lovely horse. He won the Adonis Hurdle over course and distance last season, and he battled on well to win at Ascot. But I think it's a kind of an afterthought. It's only 8 days since he won at Ascot. And even with the £6 hike for winning at Ascot, he's still £13 below what's going to be required for this. Look, he could improve. He's only 4, but I just think it's a big ask coming here on the back of pretty hard race at Ascot the last day and stepping up in grade. And I don't think you're getting compensation for the ask that it is in the price that he is. I think he's short enough for all of that. I think Not So Sleepy is the value.
Just bringing some comments. Peter's punts. Hi, Peter. Glory and Fortune at 50 to 1, 51.0, Peter. Is surely a decent each way with this bunch. That's what you said. And Dave says, lay Epatong, she's on the downgrade. Necessarily argue with that, but that's what you think, Dave. I know the more I look at it, the more I'm tempted by her now. But there you go. Right, we're going back in time again, and we're going back to the Kauto Star, formerly known as the Feltham. Oh, this is a good race. Just the 4. Brave Man's Game 1.9. Ahoy Senor is 2.1. T Clipper 23.0. Kilty Briggs is 34.0. But we've got a split here, a difference of opinion. Steve and I are in Paul Nichols's corner, and Adele and Don are in Lucinda Russell's corner. Go on, Jonesy, kick off Team Brave Man's Game first of all.
I just think that, like Don touched on for the King George and this race is won by speed, and the Cheltenham race is won by stamina. And I just think Brave Man's Game's got too much speed for Ahoy Senor, who I think is a fantastic prospect. And I'm a little bit surprised. I know it's not a grade 1, but I would have gone to Warwick. I think he'd have been fantastic around there because he jumps really so well. And I just think he won't be quick enough around here. Maybe that's doing him a disservice, but I've been impressed by both of them. I think this is going to be a good match. They both jump well, but I think Brave Man's Game would just be too quick.
Yeah, to be honest, it was, apologies for the name drop, but it was speaking to Lucinda Russell yesterday morning that made me go with Brave Man's Game, just because she seemed concerned about the track. Yes, probably the best she's ever trained. I think she's at this stage of their career. And Peter Scudamore said a similar thing. But, they definitely have reservations about the track. And I do think Brave Man's Game probably just have too much speed. The prices I can't really argue with. There's probably just enough in it to have Brave Man's Game on side. And I've been mighty impressed with him so far this season over fences. Both of them have been very good. I just think on the day, these conditions at this track will suit Brave Man's Game that little bit better. Don McClean.
Yeah, look, it's a marginal call for me, Tom, and Brave Man's Game, his jumping the last day at Haydock was so good. Like, when he was long, he was very good, and when he was short, he was so nimble and quick over his fences, and Itchy Feet was probably playing a catch-up game from a long way out, but when he did challenge him, Brave Man's Game went down again, and he looked like he won with plenty in hand. But like Ahoy Senor, he's just been so good. Like, he was likely raced before he sprang that 66 to 1 shock in the grade 1 at Aintree last year. And of course, he had Brave Man's Game well behind him that day, beat him well that day. And that was over 3 miles at Aintree, which, albeit Aintrie's left-handed, but it's a flat, sharp enough track. And I thought he was running well at Carlisle when he came down. And then last time at Newbury, it was just so good. I know Mr. Incredible probably underperformed on the day. He was playing catch up from a lot further out than you expected that he would. But Ahoy Senor, even though he made one or two mistakes on the way around, I just thought he was very, very good. And that was over just slightly short of 3 miles. Look, it's going to be a hell of a battle between the two of them. They're two very, very, very exciting novices, and it's going to be interesting to see how it develops. And they both like to go forward in the races as well. So yeah, and like the fact that I was kind of favouring Ahoy Senor marginally anyway, and the fact that he's a slightly bigger price as well. Yeah, he'd just be the marginal call for me.
Adele, what do you want to add to that?
Not much, really. I mean, it is very close between the two. It's actually the one race I'm really looking forward to, and that's because being from the north, Ahoy Senor is one of the most promising northern horses we've seen so far, and so that's probably edging my selection a little bit. But if you go back to his hurdle form, and obviously when he beat Bravesman Game, that was only his second start hurdling. Like he's still massively learning his trade, and although Bravesman Games is just starting to probably look a little bit more of the finished article, I still think there's a lot more to come from Ahoy Senor. So listen, if I had £1 for every time a trainer had an excuse before the race as to why they might run under par, I'd be a millionaire. So they're always going to have little niggles in the back of their mind when they're going into races like that with horses like that. So but honestly, I think he's one of the most promising horses we've seen from the north. So I really hope he puts up a dominant display on Sunday. I do.
And if you're watching us live or indeed on Catch Up, you'll see our selections are scrolling across the bottom of the screen, which is just a beautiful touch. I feel like we've gone up a grade since we got a new producer. No offense, Sally, if you're watching. But yeah, that's it. So couple for Brave Man's Game, couple for Ahoy Senor in the Kauto start. Hopefully they all show up. Dave has said he's got a feeling that Ahoy won't run if little or no rain. There is rain forecast. I think that's something worth bearing in mind. I think let's hope that doesn't happen. Anyway, right, let's finish up with Kempton on Saturday on Boxing Day first. I'm sorry, on Sunday, Boxing Day first, but with the Novices Handicap Chase. This opens up the ITV action. This is the 120. Bothwell Bridge for Nicky Henderson, 1 and 2 in the race for him is 4.5. Danny Kerwin is 5.5. Mr. Coffee 6.0. Killer Kane 9.0. Sebastopol 10.0. And then we're into the double figures. Right, you lot have all gone for the same horse. So let's have Steve make the case first of all.
Yeah, Danny Kerwin is the horse. And he's always been a horse with great potential. I remember him winning at Kempton in a bumper a good few years ago because he missed a year, Danny Kerwin, not so long ago. But he came back over hurdles last year, and I always thought he's a great big horse. So fences were always going to be his thing, and he went to Cheltenham for his Chase debut. Finished second to Annual Invictus, but I thought it was a really good run for a number of reasons. He was very, very weak in the betting. Now, whether that was the fact that he looked like he needed the run, which I think he ran like it, or the fact that he was going left-handed because he's much better over hurdles, going right-handed. And he's won that bumper at Kempton. He also won at Ascot and Wincanton. So in the Wincanton run, which was his last hurdles run back in the spring, was on good ground, so he's got no problem with that. And I just think he's gone. I think he's very well handicapped. I think he's going to be a lot higher rated in the end of the season over fences because I think he's going to have a great time with it. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him in graded novice chases in the not too distant future. And I know this is a hot race, but I just think Danny Kerwin is an exceptionally good bet.
Adele,
what would you like to
add? Only a little bit really on the ratings, really, to what Steve's already said. We all kind of probably know he's much better right-handed, but the race at Cheltenham where he was second, considering what is he 133 that the winner went and won again. He's 142. The third was second to my Drogo. Fourth's rated 145, and the fifth that went on and won and was fifth in 2 cross-country chases is rated 141. So on the ratings, like he's got to be kind of he's the horse, and that's why all 3 of us have picked him.
And Don?
Yeah, all of that, Tom. I suppose like he always looked like he was going to be a bit better chaser than Hurdley. He won his only point-to-point for Pat Doyle, and that was his first chase the last day. He was a wee bit novice at one or two of his fences, and as Steve said, over hurdles he was better going right-handed when Kempton is not dissimilar to Kempton. And at Cheltenham the last day, he was out to his right, so you're thinking definitely going right-handed should see him improve. He's racing off his hurdles mark of 133, and for a horse who should be a better chaser than hurdler, that should be well within his compass. He's got the potential to improve beyond that. Look, he's not an overly young horse. He's 8 going 9, but he's only had the one chase, and I think if he can jump a wee bit better than he did at Cheltenham the last day, and he should do for going right-handed, he should improve on that. And as Adele says, the form of the race, it was only a 5-horse race, but the form is working out really, really well. So yeah, I just think he's got ticks in a lot of the right boxes.
That is Danny Kerwin, who's currently second favourite in there at 5.5. Talking about what trainers have said in the past and not necessarily listening to it. Well, Bothwell Bridges trainer Nicky Henderson, after he won at Sandown on good ground, said he wants 3 miles and heavy ground and will probably run in a novice with a penalty next time. So here he is. Mr. Coffee equals beef korma for lunch, says DC. I think that means DC fancies him because when DC has a winner, he treats his wife and family to the local beef korma. I agree with you, Dees. I think Mr. Coffee is a very speculative shout at the prices. 6.0 and with a dead 8 in there, I'd play win and place, equal stakes both, to just get a bit of money back if he doesn't win. But if he is placed, I'd be disappointed if he's in the 3. He's pretty consistent, and I think that this trip might just be what he wants now. I thought he indicated that last time. For all he was disappointing right at the top of the market, given that he's got a really good record fresh. He didn't show that last time. I didn't want to play right at the top of the market. Mr. Coffee for me, for all Nico de Boinville has unsurprisingly gone elsewhere, given Bothwell Bridges' profile. Small win and place in that for me. Right. Let me tell you about the sign-up offer. Look, I'm going to also use my elf on the shelf for this. So this is the Matchbook welcome offer, £20 welcome offer. It's money back as cash if your first bet loses. It's for new customers only. And to take advantage of this, you need to use the bonus code INSIGHTSRF. Those are the letters RF, Romeo Foxtrot. Place your first bet. If it loses, we'll refund your stake as cash. Full T's and C's on the Matchbook website. It's the £20 welcome offer. It's the sign-up offer with Matchbook. New customers only, money back as cash if your first bet loses. There you go. Adele, has Scarlett been gripped by the elf on the shelf at home or not? Have you done that?
No, we had it for 1 year and I kept forgetting every day. So I said he's moved out, he's gone somewhere else. We haven't seen him again. And she keeps saying to me, "Where's my elf on the shelf?" I was like, "I don't know, Scarlett, I think he's moved."
Scarlett, you were so naughty that elf just moved out.
They're full-time commitment.
I know. Our elf on the shelf was ravaged by the dog in the garden, so that didn't end well either. Let's kick on to Wetherby. That's where we're going, isn't it? So we'll finish up the UK Saturday action and go to Wetherby for the Rowland Meyrick, which is where Adele is going to be, I know. Good races over 3 miles, 10 going for it at the moment on currently soft ground. Silver Hallmark 5.0, Cloudy Glen 7.0, the Labrix Trophy winner. Good Boy Bobby, who caused Steve heartache last time, is 7.0. 7.5 for Empire Steel, 8.0 for DBC, 9.0 Windsor Avenue. I'll give you the double figures as and when we get to them. Okay. Don, because we touched on Good Boy Bobby before, you can make the case for that horse.
Yeah, look, this is a good race, and Silver Hallmark did have other options, so it's interesting he's coming here. Maybe the step up to 3 miles should suit him, but I just thought Good Boy Bobby the last day, I think they probably rode him not certain that he would get the trip, and it turned out he really did get the trip. It was a snowy, grounded type of day, and he had to really stay to get as close as he got to eye right. And he was just a bit unlucky that the post just came too close or too soon for him. He gets to race off a £5 higher mark, but I think that's fine. He's up to a mark of 146 now, which is the same as his peak rating. The one worry about him is he does go well fresh, and that was the second run of the season, so you want him to reproduce that run, but he's going to have a break of over 4 weeks for this, so that hopefully should be enough. So I think they can maybe ride him. Obviously, with Daryl Jacob out injured, Sam Tristan Davis takes over. Look, I think Sam Tristan Davis is a really top class rider, so that's not a negative. And goodbye, Bobby. The fact that he's back at Wetherby, I think that's a positive. He's got really good form at Wetherby. I think he's 2 for 2 there over fences, and I think he won his bumper there or a maiden hurdle early in his career. So he's a horse who he's looking pretty much, as in he's not a likely race chaser, but I think the step up to 3 miles, now that they know that he stays the trip, I think he can progress again for that trip. And the fact that he's racing off a mark that's no higher than his previous peak, that's a positive as well. Look, I think Silver Hallmark is going to be a tough nut to crack, but I think the value is with Goodbye Bobby.
Nobody's gone for Silver Hallmark. I thought he was a sort of strange favourite, if you like. So Don with Good Boy Bobby. Steve, you're with DBC for the Skeltons.
I am, but I thought Silver Hallmark was the right favourite, and I nearly went, because he could easily just be too good. He could take this field apart. I thought he ran very well at Carlisle, and I think the step up to 3 miles is just what he wants. The negative with him is Fergal O'Brien's horses, who've been in the spectacular form for about 2 years, not in great form at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was just something that wasn't quite right, because they had been in red hot form, and that's the sole reason why I'm not going to go with Silver Hallmark, and I take a chance with DBC, who has had some very good form in the past for Tim Vaughan. Made his debut switching to Dan Skelton back in March at Sandown and went through that race really impressively, like a really well handicapped horse, and then stopped to nothing, was just run down in the closing stages. That might have been breathing issues, because he did have a breathing operation before that run, and he's had another one since. He's got the class to be very, very competitive off this sort of handicap mark. He's got quite a lightweight, he's bottom weight in this, and I'm willing to take that chance that they've sorted out his issues, because when it all clicks, he's more than capable of winning this.
That is Steve. I'm sorry, I was reading Peter's Punt's message. No love for Empire Steel. Well, since you mentioned that, I'll bring that up. Steve's gone with DBC. Empire Steel. Then he's my best bet on the day. I thought he ran really well when he bumped into Strictly Dancer last time, who didn't frank the form, I know, but was pulled up and too disappointing for words subsequently. I thought he ran into a horse who was on great form. If you look at all of his chase starts so far, so he won first of all at Ayr, he then went back there on heavy ground in Novice company and was beaten just by a neck, having been keen in the smaller field. He bolted up at Kelso, then at he was pulled up in Grade 1 company at Aintree, and then his first start this season he ran into Strictly a Dancer. He's gone up a pound. I'd have him ahead of Silver Hallmark, who I think has got it to prove over the trip, but he does, and I'm not certain he will appreciate it. So there we go. At the prices, I thought he was a really good bet. Empire Steel at 7.5. Adele,
I'm going to go Topville Ben, Northern. We've won 6 of the last 10 runnings of this, so we should never look past any of our Northern horses. And I think like Windsor Avenue, I think is a horse that I think is going to win a big one at some point. But I think Topville Ben, like they're obviously looking at the national for him, and he ran in the Beaches Chase last time just to see how he went over the fences, and he actually he was jumping superbly until he fell at the chair. I don't know where he would have finished. Snow Leopardess was absolutely game as anything. But it was hard to kind of take your eye off him in the race, because he was actually loving it out in front. They do loads of kind of like cross-country schooling, and they go to the beach and stuff with their horses up at Phil Kirby's. And obviously he's got that fall to kind of to overcome. But like I said, they do loads of stuff with their horses. So I'm sure his confidence will be absolutely fine. He won this race in 2019, does look stronger than when he won it. But he's been quite lightly raced since, because he had a chip. So as long as he's kind of still got that engine, which he looked like he did down at Aintree, I can't see why he wouldn't run a massive race. He would want a bit more rain, and it is raining at my house now. I'm literally the next junction up, so 5 minutes away, and I know we've got a bit of a bad forecast Christmas night for snow and on Boxing Day as well. So hopefully it gets a little bit more rain. I think he's going to run a big race, Topville Ben. I do. He looked from what I can see on their social media, he looks fantastic.
Well, I put him up in the Beecher, and then obviously he came a cropper. I feel like this. I was billing this in my head as UK against Ireland, but it just feels a bit more like the North against the rest, with Adele banging the Queen of the North drum. I like it. He's 13.0 is top.
Yeah, win place.
Win place 13.0. There you go. Right, that's the UK done on Saturday. And we can now turn our attention to Leopardstown, Racing Post Novices Chase. And betting as follows. Fernie Hollow is in there at 1.9. Riviere de Tel is 2.3. Course Sublime is 13.0. And 21.0 for Grand Bornand. 67's off an 100. Any price you like, Gallant John Joe. Interesting race. And so Don and I with Fernie Hollow, I don't know if you actually make him a bet at that sort of price. Personally, I do. I thought he'd be short to Don, but take it away.
Yeah, look, like Riviere de Tel, you have to respect everything she's done. She's been really, really good. She jumps very well. She clocked a really good time the last day at Navan, and she gets all the allowances. Like, she's still getting the age allowance, a significant age allowance. It's down to what? She gets £7 sex allowance and another £6 age allowance at this point of the season. By the time we get to the spring, the age allowance will be gone, but she's getting it all at this stage. So it's a massive concession. She's getting £13 from the geldings, the older geldings. And it's massive, and she's been very, very good. But I just think Fernie Hollow, he's a classy horse. Like, she beat Take All the last day of Seamus Fahey's, and he's a very good horse, but he's rated in the 130s. Like, Fernie Hollow could be a 160 odd rated horse, so she's probably going to have to improve again to beat him. And he wasn't overly impressed with the last day visually, but as Steve was saying earlier on, the 3 fences down the back straight were taken out because of the low sun. He was in front, so that wasn't ideal. You're in front, just galloping on the flat for a long time. And when Cursebleem came to him, he picked up again. Cursebleem actually passed him over the second last fence, but he came back at him. And that was the really impressive part, was having not done everything right through the race, the way that he was able to get back at Cursebleem and pull away and win by 4 lengths. And remember, that was his first run in over a year. He won his maiden hurdle last season. He beat Bob Ollinger, and the pair of them obviously were miles clear. So the fact that he missed the rest of the season, that was obviously frustrating, but he'd had a year off. He's come back. We know the Willie Mullins horses, they're going to improve for their first runs, especially their first runs over fences. And yeah, I think he'll come on. There's every chance he will fulfill his potential, because his potential is massive. I mean, he's champion bumper winner. He'd been appreciated in the champion bumper. So he could be a monstrous horse. And Riviere de Tel, she's very, very talented, and she gets £13, but I just think he could be a better horse. And I think with that run under his belt, yeah, I think he's got a better chance of beating her than a shade of odds on suggests.
And Adele, you are with the mare.
I am. I'm hoping she's going to put her kind of more experience and a weight advantage to good use. Very Hollow. Listen, he was, he's allowed to make mistakes for a novice on his first start, but some of them were really quite novice-y at times. Like, it's more the way he kind of was a little bit, when the horses twist in the air. I didn't like, to be honest with you, and he's not one that I would want to be backing. I thought she's got more experience, obviously, anyway, so she jumps a little bit better. That £13 allowance is massive. It's absolutely massive, and it's hard to overlook. So I'm going to stick with her. I think she's classy, and I think she's got a few ticks there for me personally that I would look for. Ferry Hollow, I think his jumping wasn't really up to my level, I don't think, for my liking anyway.
Fair enough. And Steve, you've officially put no bet, so I'm just going to move on through it. But I will come to you first on the next race. I know you were in the Fernie Hollow camp, but officially no bet. Next up, we go to the Faugheen Novice Chase at Limerick. And betting for this as follows. Once I've got it up on my screen in front of me, right at the top of the betting is Gavinaco. 2 in the race for Gavin Cromwell at the moment, though he has indicated that Vanillier will still go to Leopardstown later on in the week, but I think it's just a bit ground dependent at the moment. Gavinaco, though, is 3.25. At 4.0 is Farouk Delane, 4.5 for Vanillier, May Not Run, 7.0 Lifetime Ambition, 8.0 Lieutenant Command, Fire Attack, Master McShay are both 17.0, and Global Equity is outsider of the bunch. So, Steve, take it away.
I couldn't quite understand why Gordon Elliott's Faugheen Delane wasn't favourite, to be honest. Very impressed. Over hurdles only beaten once. Beat Vanillier in a Grade 2 last Christmas, and first run since on Chase debut at Navan about 3 weeks ago. I thought jumped really well, and that was on decent ground. I think the softer ground certainly suit Faugheen Delane, and although it's a really good race, this one, looking forward to this. But I think Faugheen Delane's got that upward curve where others might have better hurdles form. Although his hurdles form wasn't bad by any stretch, I think he's got to be a better chaser, handle the conditions, stay well. And I thought Faugheen Delane should be favourite.
Yeah, nothing to add. I completely agree with it. I thought he was really, really good last time and living up to the top billing he had over hurdles, where he was obviously very good. But I prefer him. I know Gabanaco has been placed in Grade 1 company, but I don't think that was the most exciting renewal of the Drinmore, given that a lot of horses hadn't been out. And I think it was a weak enough renewal. So I'm with Faugheen Delane at half a point or so bigger than Gabanaco. Adele, you're the same. I like it that the three British pundits are with Faugheen Delane and then Don's looking elsewhere. Make of that what you will. Go on, Adele.
And especially after such an absence as well. But it's more his attitude, really, more than anything. I looked back through quite a few of his races and I thought he's a very game horse. You know, he was in front at the last, he was headed, and then he still went and battled back. And after having so long off the track, I do really like that in him. So I thought it would be favourite as well. So I'm surprised at that. I think he looks even better chasing. So he's definitely one I wanted on side.
And Don, one thing that actually Peter has touched upon, which I was thinking as well, is that it's going to be a test, I think, at Limerick, and that's what Gordon has said. You know, he'll only show up here if it's testing ground. And isn't that not a worry for Gabanaco?
I think Gabanaco is a horse who's been running over 2.5 miles, but I think he'll get further, and he does have form on like that race at Galway in which Noble Yates just got up and beat him. That Magic Days was in as well. That was soft ground, so he handled soft ground all right. And yeah, look, I love Faugheen Delane. I was there at Navan when he won, and you couldn't have but been impressed with him. He's a horse who will improve as he steps up and trip, but it's 2.5 miles, not 3 miles. He won the novice hurdle that he won the Doran's Pride race last year when he beat Vanillier. That was over 3 miles or nearly 3 miles on heavy ground. I think he's a horse who will be even better when he gets even more of a test of stamina, whereas Gabanaco was unlucky not to win the Drinmore. He made a mistake at I think it was the fourth last or the third last before the turn-in, and then he made mistakes at both the second last and the last. Almost the exact same type of mistake at both fences. And if he jumped one of those fences better, he probably would have won it. And even like when he got beaten, when he got passed, the way that he was coming back again at the line, that was really impressive. And 2.5 miles at Ferryhouse, the Drinmore is always a race that from which novice chasers go out and trip. It's a stairs race coming in the early part of the season. And Beacon Edge, who won it, Fury Road was third. Beacon Edge won it. Beacon Edge is 158, 159 rated hurdler. So it was a proper Grade 1 race, I think. And Gabanaco might have won it. He was a wee bit unlucky last season. Remember he unseated at the first flight in the Martin Pipe hurdle when he was impeded. So he's a horse who I think he's bubbling under a wee bit, and I don't think he's probably hit the headlines like he should have done for his talent. And you know, when he won this beginner's chase at Ferryhouse, that was a good performance. He jumped well that day. I think if he can jump, just iron out the mistakes that he made the last time in the Drinmore, and Ferryhouse takes an awful lot of jumping. I'm not surprised that he's favourite in front of Faugheen Delane. Look, they're both really exciting horses. They should both move forward as we move through the season, and I think both could move up and trip, but especially Faugheen Delane, he'll probably improve for more of a test of stamina. But I think 2.5 miles on soft ground, I think that should suit Gabanaco well. And yeah, I think he's the one they have to beat.
I felt that was a really cogent, well-made case, Don. But we are allowed to give you lots of shit on the WhatsApp group, right?
Oh yeah, I expect it. I'd be disappointed if I didn't get it, Tom.
Good. I would sincerely hope so. We'll record Steve giving a video, which he's done before. Right, that is the Saturday action done, isn't it? What a Saturday it is as well. So we move on to the PRC Chase, the Paddy's Rewards Club Chase. But I wasn't going to type all that out. That is the 110. Oh no, I'm going to do best bets. Apologies, best bets on Saturday. So we get 2 sets of best bets, one for each day. So first of all, best bets on Boxing Day. Dom, what's your best bet?
Chantry House in the King George for all the reasons outlined earlier.
Adele, your best bet?
I've gone for Epperton. I'm starting to regret it ever so slightly after everyone telling me she's on a downward curve, but I'm going to stay with her anyway.
Quite right. Stick to your guns. Steve, your best bet?
Danny Kerwin, Novice Handicap Chase at Kempton.
Bosh, just like that. And my best bet is Empire Steel in the Rowland Meyrick. So those are the Boxing Day best bets. Now we are going to come to the Paddy's Rewards Club 110 on the 27th. So 2 grade ones we're looking at from Leopardstown, and then we'll do the Welsh National as well. Chacun Pour Soi is a rather off-putting 1.5, but you can see why. Envoy Allen is 3.5. Battle Over Doyen and Sizing Potsy are the other 2 in there. They're both 34.0. I'm most interested in hearing Steve's case for Envoy Allen, and I'm going to try and keep a straight face while you're doing it, Steve. Go.
Why are you keeping a straight face?
So I couldn't do it, Steve. Nearly. It's Envoy Allen, Steve. Over 2 miles.
It's purely because I don't like Chacun Pour Soi, and coming back from that awful run in the Tingle Creek, I couldn't be with him. And it was a process of elimination. And I don't think it's the craziest move in the world for Envoy Allen. I think he's always had plenty of class. He was a bit disappointing at Punchestown, but he sat he sat behind a very fast pace set by Allaho. So that might have just taken him out a bit, but I don't know. It wasn't a race I wanted a huge bet in, but at the prices, I just don't think there's any contest. I think that he's a very talented horse that I haven't quite given up on. I think people, when these horses come along and they look superstars, when they turn out to not win every time, people say, oh, he's no good. They're desperate. The bitter people of this in racing are desperate to get these great horses beat all the time. And then as soon as they are, they say, I told you, you're no good.
Well, we've all gone with, I don't know if anybody makes Chacun an actual, I don't want to say. If Chacun's an actual bet at 1.5, I was going to come in here and say, yeah, he's best bet material, but I don't know, 1.5 is probably not that exciting, is it? Dom, what do you want to say about the race? And you are with Chacun. Is he bet material?
Yeah, no, he's not really, Tom, coming on the back of such a disappointing run at Sandown. So you have to forgive him that. And there were potential reasons why he kind of came home with a bit of a nick. And Patrick Mullins said he just wasn't himself. I was kind of talking about when he got to the railway fences, he put in a short stride before the first of them. He seemed to be meeting another stride. And again, at the last of them. But Patrick was saying that even before that, he knew he wasn't going. There was an earlier fence down the back straight where he thought he was meeting a spot on. And the Chacun Pour Soi normally would just fly at that. And he didn't. So it wasn't him. Willie Mullins thinks that he hasn't back, that he's recovered from the little nick that he had then. And, you know, is it a coincidence that the 2 times he travelled to England, he underperformed? I don't know. You know, there might be something in that travelling that far maybe just doesn't agree with him. Whereas we know he's dynamite at Leopardstown. And yeah, look, on Envoy Allen, I still think he needs to go out. Maybe he doesn't need to go out and trip, but I'd love to see him out and trip. He did win his point-to-point over 2.5 miles, so not 3 miles. But on his pedigree suggests that he could go out and trip. His dam's a half-sister to Avignon, I think, who won a Paddy Power Chase. So, you know, he's still as Steve says, he's still a very, very good horse. He's just not the superstar, the unbeaten superstar that he was. But and he may not be the horse that he was, because he was very, very good as a novice hurdler. Obviously, in a novice chaser, he beat everything, and everything he did was very good. His vulnerabilities have been exposed, but I think there could be more. You know, it'll be interesting to see how it goes over 2 miles, but I think, you know, stepping up to 3 miles could be the thing for him. Whereas Chacun Pour Soi, look, 2 miles is a trip. He loves Leopardstown, and yeah, I think he should be odds on.
Envoy Allen now in the same camp with Henry de Bromhead as Aputo, who's a 3 miler. Maybe that's leading to why he's come back and trip. I don't know. Daniel Hussey says Envoy Allen is no good anymore, Steve, in that sort of way that Steve was saying. Well said, Dan. Adele, do you want to add anything about Chacun?
Yeah, I'm only going to add a little bit probably about he apparently knocked off his chestnut, which is, well, as the horses evolved over the years, they had 4 toes originally, and then they ended up with an ergot, their frog, their hoof, and then the chestnut is like halfway up the leg, so like round about their knee or like near their hock, and he actually done it on his back leg, so he's obviously taken it off. It's honestly, it's really sore. Sometimes you have to peel them off your own horse if they get too big, and they get, honestly, even when you do just take it off a little bit, they get uncomfortable, they start getting fidgety. But don't forget, when a horse jumps, like, all their power comes from their back leg, so if he's injured and he's not feeling right, he's not gonna run very well. I mean, he ran too bad to be true, didn't he? Something was not right with him at all. So that's what apparently he's done. He took his chestnut off, which I can only tell you would be so sore. I know they say it's like taking off one of your toenails, but it's actually worse. It's really sore. So I think you can just put a line through that, and I think as long as he's better, I can't see why he wouldn't be back to I suppose near his best if he's got over that, because it is very
Adele, would you go along with Willie in that he's had enough time for his toenail or his chestnut to have grown back, or to have recovered from that?
It's when they initially do it more than anything, and like I said, they rely on their back end to push them out. That's where they spring from, their back end, when they come up over a jump. So the fact that he did it on his back leg would have been even worse. That would be enough time. It would be just a matter of it healing, which is a matter of I suppose 10 days really for it to heal. But yeah, it would have been very, very, very sore, very sore.
I'm not going to try and follow that. I think that's excellent info, and I think he's the one to beat. Also to point out, Steve hasn't had chestnuts for years. We're going to move on to the 145, which is the Paddy Power Future Champions Novice Hurdle. Mighty Potter is 3.0. Largy Debut is next in at 3.25. 4.33 for Grangy. Sorry, that's the 4.0 for Grangy. 3 Strike Life is 7.0. Then we're into double figures. Last, the Irish races we're doing here. Adele and I are sitting this one out. I couldn't make my mind up. And then Steve and Don are both right at the top of the market with Mighty Potter. So go on, Steve, you first of all.
Well, I think most people would want to hear Don is much more informed on Irish racing. I didn't think Mighty Potter would be such a short price, to be honest. But I thought his run last time when he was third in the Royal Bond, I thought that was a really good run, considering he'd only run in 1 bumper and 1 hurdle race, winning that one easily. I thought he was, perhaps his inexperience caught him out, and I thought he'd take a good step forward to that. So I was with Mighty Potter, but I'm interested to hear what Don thinks, and so everyone else should be as well.
I just want to throw over to you, Don, with a question, and that is, I suppose much of this is centred around whether you feel Largy Debut's victory over Kilcruit last time was fluke, or was it on merit? If it was on merit, it should be favourite, no?
Yeah, if it was totally on merit. Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, Tom. Interesting talking to Willie and Patrick Mullins about it. Patrick Mullins thought that Kilcruit underperformed at least a little bit, but Willie Mullins was saying that Largy Debut, like, he'd heard about him beforehand. He was fairly well touted horse before that, and he hadn't run since the previous March. So, look, again, Willie and Patrick probably both think that Largy Debut was underrated. Like, we didn't probably realise how good he was going into the race. Kilcruit, what was he was 1-14, wasn't he? I think he was the shortest priced horse ever beaten in Ireland. So there's obviously something, you have to investigate that when that happens. But Patrick did think that Kilcruit wasn't as good as he can be. But yeah, I think people definitely underrated Largy Debut, because you could see how far the pair of them pulled clear of the rest of the field. So Largy Debut, like, he has to be considered a serious player. But I agree with Steve and Mighty Potter. I just thought the last day at Fairyhouse, the race wasn't run to suit. They didn't go a great pace. He was in behind. When they quickened, they kind of got away from him a wee bit. And then when Brian Cooper just kind of switched him to the inside, then he picked up, and he made up an awful amount of ground between the run to the final flight and the winning line. And actually, he ran out of room a little bit on the run, just on the run very close home. And he might have even been closer if he'd got a clear run the whole way up the run in. So, look, he's probably going to have to improve on that anyway to, like, the statuary beat him. But my mate Mozzie was second. And my mate Mozzie's a top-class horse of novice of Gavin Cromwell's. He could be very, very good as well. He's skipping Christmas. But no, it was a big run by Mighty Potter. And I think, with, again, chatting to Brian Cooper, he thinks that with that experience under his belt. Like it was more, he thought, a lack of experience than a lack of pace. So he thinks with that experience under his belt, 2 miles should be fine for him. And yeah, like I'm not surprised to see him favourite, but Largy Debut was a big danger. Grand G, like top class bumper mare from last season, she was very good in winning on her hurdling debut at Fairyhouse. So she's a player as well, and obviously she gets the £7 allowance and 3-stripe life as well. Like it's a hell of a race. But after the Royal Bond, I kind of said that I wanted to be with Mighty Potter wherever he went next, and this was the most likely target for him. So yeah, I'm sticking with it.
And that's it for the Irish action. And then we finish up with the Welsh National. Now, just to point out, we don't have decks for the Welsh National, but I thought it was important to include it because of the race it is. It is currently 5.5 the field, with Secret Reprieve, last year's winner, in there, first start since. But I'll give you the prices if and when we get to them. So nice, concise views on the Welsh National, please, starting with Adele.
Well, I'm going to go Secret Reprieve. I know. I can't even, I think, is it 18 winners or something? You need to have had a run in the 7 weeks build up to this. So he hasn't, but I think he's got a lot of ability, this horse, and he might, the fact that he hasn't had a run, he might be able to overcome that with the fact that he's, I think, a very classy horse. And then I've got Potter's Corner because I just don't think anything's gone to plan ever since he won the race. And I think the fact that he ran so well at Cheltenham last time out kind of looks like he's probably getting back to winning race. He's not jocked up, so I don't know if he's 100% sure whether he's going to run him or not, Potter's Corner. So we'll have to wait and see for the decks. But I definitely would have him win and place Potter's Corner, and I'll have a win on Secret Reprieve because I think he's a very, very smart horse. I think he's got a very bright season ahead of him, this horse.
Peter says Mighty Thunder for the Welsh National, and Steve Jones agrees.
Yeah, I can't understand. I mean, I've not found any evidence that he's not running because he's 17.0, and I just
he's definitely running. He's definitely running.
I mean, that's just a crazy price for a horse that you know will stay and jumps, and has got all sorts of form in these marathon races. He was second in the Midlands National, won the Scottish National, and had a nice pop round Wetherby in the Charlie Hall Chase, which he was never going to be quick enough in, but. And he won't mind the ground either. The ground's going to be as decent for the Welsh National than it's ever been. And it was decent when he won the Scottish National. But it's just a crazy price. I can't see how he can be out of the frame, especially with Native River keeping the weights down.
Like Potter's Corner, he is 17.0, is Mighty Thunder. Don!
I'm going to go with I Will Do It of Sam Thomas's. I was kind of hoping that Native River would come out. And if he had come out, he'd be £6 well in under his £4 penalty for winning the trial. But Native River, so he's going to be out of the handicap. But he's actually racing. He's going to, with Native River in, he's still going to race off his correct mark of 140. So he's not well in, but he's not badly in either. So I just thought the way that he won the last day when Colorado Doc came to him, the two of them pulled well clear, and he pulled away again from Colorado Doc close home. That was on good to soft ground. It's going to be similar conditions probably. But he's got form on very soft ground as well at Kelso. So even if it does ease a little bit, that shouldn't affect him. He is a Chepstow winner, which, as we know, that's really important going into a Welsh National. And he's a lightly raced horse. He's only had 3 runs over fences. So I think he can improve on the mark of 140 off which he races on 13.0 or thereabouts. I think that's fair.
He is 13.0. I've got a couple of Nichols's on side. Highland Hunter won last time where it wasn't the plan at Sandown. He's actually a pound badly in, but so be it. At least he won last time. £4 penalty. This was his target. I thought 8.0 was fair enough against the favourite. And also Trucker's Lodge, who I think Adele and I put up last year. He didn't have a good prep for this last year. When he unseated previously, he's had a better prep here, made it round where he wasn't fit, and he's £5 lower than last year. So I thought was a very fair price. Best bets, please. So nice and concise for your best bets on the Monday, which is the 27th. I finally got that right. Steve Jones, your best bet?
Grey Diamond if it runs in the 105 at Chepstow. Sam Thomas
horse.
Yeah. In great form. He's in really good form, Sam Thomas.
Adele, your best bet?
I'm going to go Cornerstone Lad at Wetherby if he runs in the Castleford Chase. Nothing's quite gone right this season so far on his 2 starts. Got absolutely wiped out at Newcastle on his latest run when a horse jumped on top of him. So I've ridden him out this season. He's in great form. I just want him to win a race, and I think he's going to run really well.
Cornerstone lad. Don, your best bet.
Back to the Sam Thomas theme with Steve. I'll stick with I Will Do It. Win and place in the Welsh National.
And I will go with Highland Hunter against Don, also in the Welsh National. Merry Christmas, one and all. Bye-bye.